Hey, today I have a battle report for you. Unfortunately, not a game that I recorded, but it was my first game at World Open War on what was colloquially known as the Mountain of Stupidity. So here we go. Game 1 of World Open War 2024 from of my game 1, right? It's my game. So Denmark had been matched up with barbarians, and I had been matched up on, or I had taken a table that the other two players did not want to play on. So I basically threw myself on that one and said, okay, good luck. And that was this one, the Mount of Stupidity. It was surprisingly it was surprisingly good to play on. Actually, it wasn't bad at all. But there was one very, very tall ridge line, which you can sort of see on this picture here, in the middle of the table. I guess it was about 12 inches tall. It was very, very tall. There were 5 small forests on that, and one train car, which you can see right here, which we ruled was a building that you can move in. There were like different openings you can move into, doors and windows and whatnot. And then there were a few scattered hedges along the sides here, on both sides. Now, I knew that going up to this table, that one side was a little bit better than the other, and that was the one on your right, because that had the most line of sight blocking terrain, and it had also a little bit more of the hedges, so it was a little bit denser in terrain, but you know, it's a very, very open. If this was a flat table, it would not be playable. Because it was a huge ridge line, it was completely different. It really, really changed up what you can do on this table. So the mission that we were playing was, can't remember if it's, it's hold until relieved. That's the one. So there was one objective. I think actually later on we found out that the objective should have been the train car, but Martin and me, that wasn't the plan. We ruled that it was the cross up here. That was the objective, and then the secondary objective would be the train car in the center. I think it was the other way around, intended to be the other way around, but you know, whatever. I again have made a mistake over here in my writing here. So ignore what's written over on your right. Copy paste error. Again, sorry. There were only that one objective, right? And the mission was that you could place 3 of your units within 6 inches of that objective. If they were infiltrators, you could place them further away. And then that would be the defender. The attacker could place his forces in first wave and on outflanks, and the defender could place his forces in reserve. So I win the roll-off, and we go from there. So the lists that we were bringing. I was bringing my UFO swarm, 24 order dice, 8 light mortars, T60s, cavalry, and veteran scouts. So I was very happy with the table, very happy with the mission based on my list here. Although the light mortars would not be able to shoot most of the game, I knew that if my opponent, Martin Knowles, if he came up on the ridge, I would definitely get shots. Martin had what I call a greatest hits, so it's like 2 of everything that's good. American list, so he had 3 skirmish units. One of them was a marine unit. 2 of them were just regular infantry. He had 2 Filipino scouts on horseback. He had double light mortars, double tanks. One of them was a Darker Stewart, the other was a Stewart Satan, so a flamethrower Stewart. And he had an autocannon and a howitzer. He had 16 order dice. Just looking at his list, I knew that his artillery was going to be key. If he could get shots, then that would be deadly. But I could deny those shots by clever use of terrain, of line of sight blockers, and of the ridge. So, I had already made a plan for this scenario. If I wanted, I knew I would place 2 of my scouts and a T60 on the table, and then see if I could bring in the rest. And because of the table, I absolutely knew I wanted to be the defender. Had the table been more flat, I might have chosen to be attacker, but on this table, no doubt in my mind. So I placed my scouts in the 2 circles, the 2 blue circles, one behind line of sight blocking a forest, and the other behind the building, the train car. There they would be completely safe, and they would be a deterrence for Martin to move up too quickly. Because if he moved up too quickly, I could maybe push them out and kill 1 unit, right? In the blue square, I placed a T60, which was far enough back that the ridge actually gave me complete cover. I was line of sight blocked for everything that Martin was moving in. And that was what I wanted. I wanted my initial units to just be there, be a threat that caused him to delay. It didn't really. He, quite rightly, pushed up as quickly as he could. But then they would be able to shoot him as he comes, to pick my targets, to pick my fights. And that was what I wanted. So the plan was always to be the defender, unless the table was massively different. Deploy the survivable speed bumps, and then reinforce with the rest of my army. As soon as Martin had seen what I deployed, he outflanked his 2 Filipino scouts, and I knew they were going to come from this board edge, no doubt about it. There was no reason to go to the other edge because that was far away from any action. So I knew I could start blocking him by simply having units on this edge here go on ambush. So Martin starts his attack. He quite rightly identifies that he needs to push up, so he pushes infantry up along this red line here from his back line, and he also pulls in the autocannon, which he completely blocks off. It gets no shot all game. It's not a single shot. Sits down here in the corner, no shots. He pushes his howitzer in on the other flank, trying to get shots, trying to use his artillery observer, air observer to maybe get a few liners of sight, and it's really difficult for him. He also pulls in his 2 tanks towards the forest here, because then he knew that I couldn't get my initial T60 to go up and kill him immediately. But, when he pushes 1 tank up towards this gap here to pull in towards the objective, I immediately shoot it and pin it down, and then I continue to shoot it until it dies. The other tank makes it up here, tries to flame one of my scout units, fails, or it hits me and kills most of the unit, but not all of it, and I make my my morale save. It runs out, and then Martin sits with a tank that's got 1 MMG, and that's it. So he starts tank assaulting down my lines. He ends up way down in my lines, but I shoot him with dogs and with light howitzers, and he just gets bogged down, right? The problem here was that half of Martin's army could attack me, but only half, and the outflankers couldn't move in at the same time, so it gets to be a staggered attack. The Cav moves in to contest after his initial attack has stalled, and then gets shot to pieces by my waiting units. I had pulled off most of my ambushes just to get the first dice in 1 turn, and Martin gets the first dice and pulls in his outflankers. 1 Cav unit he pulls in way in my back line. I was happy about that. He could well jump around and kill my light mortars. I didn't care. They were not going to win the game anyway. And the other he pulls in right in front of T60s and guys with SMGs, and I shoot them down over a couple of turns. So his his reinforcements are gunned down. His infantry here gets bogged down and shot to pieces. His tanks gets shot to pieces, runs out. So yeah, the push was never really going to work. The key moves was for me having a plan in advance. I had planned out this mission. I had written it all down. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I win the first roll off so that I can initiate that plan. Had I not won the roll off, I would have had to reevaluate the plan a little bit and start maybe pushing, and my army doesn't push well. So I knew I needed to win that roll off. I really did. And I was then patient and reinforced the objectives. I did not push up to kill units that often. I only did so when I knew that it would be frustrating and would get me extra kill dice that I didn't need. So ambushes were more often the thing that I did. And I get the win. I am on the central objective. I get the secondary objective as well. And I win on kill points as well. So, thank you so much, Martin, for the game. It was very enjoyable. He was a very nice opponent. And I will release more of these batreps. I'll talk you through all my games at the World Open War. And I will also release more recorded games at World Open War. Now, one thing, in one of my first reviews of World Open War, I said that gun lines was a potential problem. And this table here was a complete antidote to gun lines. Why? Because the gun lines couldn't shoot. Because you couldn't see. So in that respect, it was the maneuvers that made this table. Unfortunately, if we go back again and look at that that video where I talked about gun lines being a problem, I also said that the passive player would most often win, and that is exactly what my plan was here, right? I would sit back and I would shoot him as he came. The active player in this mission had very little chance, at least against my army build. I don't know what happened when other armies came in, but in this game, the active player, the player Martin, who was attacking, right, he had to move up. He couldn't. There was no way that was going to go his way, or very little chance anyway. So it reinforced my idea, and it was one of the games where I was like, yep, the passive player, me in this case, absolutely won that game. I was sitting, I never pushed at all. I was sitting in my own deployment zone or on the objectives and shooting him as he came. And that, I think, was my main point from that video. So, an example of that. Right, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one. Cheers.